Hello, this is Jared with the Life of a Marketer podcast. And today's guest is Angela Zoiss, and she is the CMO of Bottleneck Management. I noticed that they manage different restaurants, and I noticed actually that we actually go to one of those restaurants. So maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that. My family likes one of their restaurants called City Works, that's not far from our house. But Angela is the CMO, and so I'm going to let her take it away and introduce herself. So, Angela, tell us about yourself and tell us about your company, Bottleneck Management.
Yeah, hi Jared, thanks. So I lead the marketing efforts for Bottleneck Management. We are a national restaurant group based out of Chicago. We started small with just a neighborhood bar in Wrigleyville called Trace. From there, we opened in Wicker Park. We had the Boundary, and then we opened a couple downtown Chicago, South Branch and Sweetwater. And then Old Town Poorhouse was our first really heavy draft beer concept in Old Town. And from there, we started to expand nationally. So now we have 15 restaurants across the country, some in Texas, some out east, one in Disney Springs, actually, down in Florida, and a private event space out in Pittsburgh. So I'm the CMO. So been with the company for over a decade, building the marketing department and driving growth. Outside of work, I'm really loving life with my 1.5-year-old daughter. She's a joy. My partner Andy. I dabble in stand-up comedy a little bit, and I love live music and traveling. And now that we can do those things post-pandemic, life has gotten a bit better.
Wow, so you're a very interesting person. That's the first person I've had on the podcast that says they do stand-up comedy. So don't make fun of me.
Well, aspiring. Yeah, I dabble. I'm definitely not a regular. I don't make a living doing it, but I do enjoy it. It's just kind of a fun challenge. I love comedy. I've always loved comedy. So yeah, I took classes at Second City, did their improv program, took a class at the Lincoln Lodge for stand-up comedy. And then yeah, just kind of challenging myself to get out and do some open mics here and there.
So you're a very creative person then, definitely, I imagine.
I like to identify myself as a creative person. Yes. Yeah, just kind of always challenging myself to get more in that camp than the kind of left brain world. But you definitely have to manage and balance both of those. But yes, I do. I do love the arts and being creative where possible.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. All right, so jumping into some questions, what's the best thing for you about being in the marketing industry?
So I think the best thing about it is when it's done well, it can bring information to people that they want. Um, my partner Andy always jokes that I am a marketer's dream because I'll buy clothes out of a catalog that's mailed to me, or I buy products that I catch via email or social media. And that's because those marketers are doing a good job at putting those things in front of me, things that I like. Um, I don't feel like I'm being duped. I feel like they're just doing a great job. So I think when it's done well, you can actually give people information or education or entertainment that they actually want. So I think that's one of the greatest things about it. And also it can be done in really fun and playful ways. It can be a delight, but that is the challenge. So, how can you do it that way? It's a creative industry, which is why it attracted me. So just trying to think of ways that you can make it fun. So those are a couple of things that I think are the best thing about being in the industry.
All right, thank you once again for sharing that. So important question, what sort of advice do you offer to people that are in the marketing industry right now?
Yeah, I would say just don't annoy people. Kind of use that as your guidepost. Don't say something just to say it. There's so much noise out in the world. Take some time to think about why you're sending a message, and if it's really worth it. just challenge yourself. Is it something that you would want to see yourself? And if it's not, you're making it harder for yourself and you're making it harder for other marketers because then we get this bad rap that, we're spamming people and it's all just advertising that no one wants to see. And, we're pulling people out of, their day or their thought pattern. So just challenge yourself to put content out there that is meaningful, adds value, and is something that you would want to see yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think it's there's so much noise. So if you just give something that people want to see, like you said, then it's going to be cut through the noise significantly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
hmm all right. So another question: what other successful people in marketing that are maybe like yourself would you like to acknowledge that could be on this podcast?
Well, I think that my friend and colleague Amanda Gant is a director of marketing. She's a brilliant digital marketer. She works for a company called Orbit Media Studios based out of Chicago. They are a very savvy, talented web development company based here in Chicago. Actually met Amanda through working with Orbit on our websites. And we became fast friends, and she is really just a brilliant digital marketer.
All right. So I'll have to hit Amanda up to see if she might be interested in being
No
on the
promises
podcast.
that she'll do the podcast, but she is another successful, marketer.
All right. And so for our last question that we always ask, just a fun question. Tell me about the oldest technology that you remember using.
Does it have to be marketing related? Like, does Atari count?
No, anything. That'll
Okay.
work.
Yeah, I played Atari as a kid, and our parents used to tell us that it only worked at night. And we believed them when we were young because they wanted us out of the house and playing and doing things during the day. And we were told that Atari only worked at night. So we only got to play it at night. And that's probably the oldest piece of technology. Remember Frogger and Qbert for anybody who's as old as I am. Yeah, that it's probably that. And in terms of marketing, when I first kind of came on the scene here with Bottleneck, it's when Groupon was in their heyday. So that was one of the first kind of marketing products that we tested out and launched for a minute. Yeah, so those two things take me back to the old days.
Yeah, I noticed it's interesting. Like everybody in marketing, no matter how old they are, would mess around with technology. We even some older people that have been in the industry for a long time that are older. I think our last interview we did, he talked about programming on the Commodore, just
Oh, yeah.
programming games.
Wow.
Atari, and I even when I was a kid, we had a black and white TV and some old Atari that someone had given us, and I would just
Yeah.
mess around with it in my house. We were the first person with a PC, so I find it interesting how everybody in marketing is interested in technology. So
Yeah.
it's a um, I guess that people are drawn to that, and nowadays it's all technology. So
I
um,
think you're right. That's nowadays you can't really have marketing without tech. It's so intricately woven to what we do now. And that's another fun thing about marketing is it changes all the time with the new tech that comes out. And I think there's always better ways to do it. We're certainly lucky to live now where, we can find what people like and value and we can provide those messages that resonate as opposed to just putting something out there and kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that it resonates with who you're trying to talk to. So yeah, certainly helpful.
definitely. All right, Angela. As I mentioned beforehand, this is a quick podcast. We try not to make it too long, so we're gonna end it here. But thanks so much for coming on the Life of a Marketer podcast. You can catch us we stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you've got me on LinkedIn or other social media, Instagram, Facebook, etc., You can see it there. We also release it on YouTube. So, subscribe to the channel. You can watch our podcast at any time. Angela, thanks so much for being on the podcast. Please like and subscribe and give me some love from the algorithm gods. And that's over and out. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.